We're gonna take this and turn it into this. You know how your parents always told you not to play with your food? Well, I think as you get older, there's a certain part of you that kind of, wants to rebel against the things that your parents told you and what you weren't allowed to do when you were young. So that's what we're gonna do today. We are going to play with this apple and turn it into a beautiful swan. Because why not? It's pretty quick and easy, and it really only takes about 10 or 15 minutes or so, but I'm gonna show you in just a few minutes how to do it. I think that a good contrast of the outside skin color to the inside color of the apple really makes the swan look nice. So you wanna find an apple that's got nice and red skin, or nice and green skin, but just generally, like this one's got a little bit of yellow right here. You probably wanna make sure that your apple isn't completely yellow, just so you get a little bit of that contrast in the swan when you're done. All right, let's dive in. So what we're gonna need to get this started is an apple, a pretty big knife, and 2 chopsticks. So the first thing you're gonna wanna do is you wanna take your apple and then put it on its side. So what that looks like from your perspective is if this is the side of the apple, I'm gonna cut it like this. So from one side of the top here to the other side of the bottom. So put that on its side, get this lined up, and there we go. So you can see, it's separated diagonally from the top to the bottom. So now, we're just gonna take the bottom half, but save the top half because we are gonna use it later. So what we're gonna do is line up the apple right perpendicular with your board so that you have the butt of the apple facing towards you. And then what you'll do is you'll grab 2 chopsticks, one in front and one behind the apple. Now, you're going to start just off the center of the apple. So you can see this would be the center. I'm starting just off the center, and I'm gonna cut straight down until I hit the chopsticks. Next, I'm gonna go lay the blade flat on the chopsticks and then cut into the middle of the apple. It's gonna be kind of a weird motion, but you just wanna be careful and make sure that you don't cut your fingers. But this is the only time that we're gonna be doing this weird kind of cut. And you might need to finish the cut by alternating a little bit until you get it. And then that'll get you a nice chunky piece of apple right there on the side. And it'll just separate right out. And so you'll have this little platform down here and then the middle of your apple. So now we're going to repeat this same action on the other side. So cut down and then cut across. You just want to be careful not to cut through. There we go. You don't want to cut through too much because your knife's sharp, or should be sharp, and the apple is not very strong. So at the end, you should start with your apple like this and then separate out the 2 halves. Now we'll put this aside for the time being because that's going to be our base. But to give you a little another perspective of what it looks like, there it is. It's kind of like this T shape. And then there is the butt of the apple in the back. So to orient you again, our piece would initially fit on the apple like this. There's the bottom, there's the top, and then that's what we've just made. I'm gonna put this off to the side. Okay, so next, what we're gonna do is actually the same process that we just did to create these 2 pieces, we're gonna do on these pieces again. So here, I'll start on this side. And sometimes my chopsticks are tapered a little bit, so if I use this end, they're actually a little thinner. What you're gonna wanna do is you're gonna estimate how thick to make your piece, and then chop down until you hit the chopsticks. Flip it over, and then try and replicate the same width going down. And then tidy up the cut until you get them to separate. There we go. So then now we have another little piece. Coincidentally, that piece fits back on to the base that we just made. So I'll put it there for safekeeping. And then now we're gonna do this again. So you just wanna make sure that you're cutting straight down. You don't wanna be having any curves in your cuts, because then your wings might be weak. Put that one off to the side, and then we'll do this one now. It's probably gonna be our last one. There we go. So there's our last 2 pieces. So I'll just go ahead and store that back in there, put it right in there. And so I put all the pieces that we just cut back on the base, and you can kind of start to see how this is going to fit together if you start offsetting them like that. I won't get too ahead of myself. Put them back into storage, and we'll do the other side. So we're gonna cut straight down, flip it over, and then cut straight down. Nice. Cut down, flip, cut down, tidying cut. Okay, I'm gonna pull that one out. First and foremost, they're there to help prevent you from cutting all the way through the apple because, you know, these things are, you know, apples aren't very strong. But we just finished that one up. But they're also there to try and help you kind of get an idea for uniform width of your slices that you're cutting. So we just finished up all of the pieces for the base of the apple. So now you can kind of see, if we start offsetting these, we start to get that wing shape. Put that one over there. We'll offset these a little bit. Try and make it even. There we go. And you don't need the chopsticks. I just like to use them as a guide, but you can freehand it. So that is now looking like the base of our swan. It's great. It's looking good. So I'll put those back for now, because now we need to work on 2 more pieces. We need to make the head, and then we need to cut out a place in the body for the head to sit. Both are pretty important. This is where the other part of the apple that we put away at the beginning comes in handy. So this is the top part of the apple now. And what we're going to do is put these chopsticks back down. And we're gonna slice a couple cross sections of this apple until we find one that's about the size that we like. So you put your knife down and then just start cutting across. You might run into some trouble in the middle. Just keep on pressing. Oh, that kind of worked. I just spun the apple around the blade and that worked well. So now we got one cross section. And we're gonna keep doing this. You want your cross section to be solid all throughout. You don't really want it to have these seeds in the middle. But don't throw away all your seeds because we are gonna use them later on. I think that just demonstrated the importance of keeping your hands clear as you cut because that just shot off to the side. Because I want a flat piece. And this might be a good piece. So we're gonna put that one away. Look at that, that's like a heart. And this one's too small, so it's just gonna be a snack. Alrighty, so now we're gonna make the head. So I'm taking the last piece of apple that I used right before I got to the end to make the head. A first cut from the center line back up, maybe about a ½ inch. And then one line straight across the apple. And that gives you a shape that looks like this. So if you can see, cut from the middle over here about a ½ inch at, you know, maybe a 30-degree angle, and then straight across from the other side. Then be able to pull that out. And now you can start to see, this is going to be the head of the swan, and then we're gonna create the neck below it. So now what we can do is we'll just cut off a good bit of excess right here from the back of the swan, right there. So this is what we have right now, which I know it doesn't look great. But now we're gonna start working on the curve behind the head. So that first place was just to kind of get some of our material off. And then now we kind of round the head like that. It's starting to look more like a head. And then we'll kind of do another little cut from the base of the neck, perpendicular with the first cut that we made going in. So, cut out along the base of the neck, it's perpendicular to the first cut that we made going in right here, and you get this shape. For me, this angle is kind of sharp, so I'm just gonna like smooth that out a little bit. The head of a swan that looks kind of like this. Now, we need to cut a place for the swan's head to go. If you can imagine, it's gonna kind of go right about there. So I'll move these off to the side so that it's easier for you to see where I'm cutting. But so we're cutting into this middle part. So this is why at the very beginning, we offset our wing cuts off to the side so that we had enough width in the middle to then cut into to make a slot for the neck and head to stick into. So you can kind of like start taking a look, be like, okay, this is, you know, about how much space I need. You can even trace it out if you want to. It could be kind of difficult to trace out, but just so you can kind of get an idea of width, and you know, down to there, and then, so that kind of gives me like a general idea. You just want to be careful at this point, because this is the point where it's really easy to break the body of the swan. So you kind of want to like angle your cuts in a little bit. Got a little space now. So now it's just a matter of kind of tidying it up and then making sure it fits. Oh, but you look at that. Ours fit perfectly on the first try, because that's just how we do. So next, we'll go ahead and put the wings back on. Give them a body, or they, however you want to do it, however you want to gender your swan. Now, I'm gonna grab 2 seeds from the apple, and I'm gonna take this head out. I'm gonna put them where I want to and press them in. I'm just gonna offset them a little bit because I don't think our head is large enough to, oh, I just shot it off to the side and my cat's going to eat it. And then we push the second seed in on the other side. So now you can see that we got the seed on one side and the seed on the other side for the eyes. And you can place it in. It looks more like an apple, or it looks more like a swan. So we're nearing the end. Now, all that's left, okay, so it looks like my slot for the neck was a little loose. So you can always widen, but you can never make it narrower. Now we're just gonna offset the wings by a little bit at each level. Just try to keep them symmetrical. And there we go. We have our swan, beautiful and ready to grace the table of anyone who likes to eat their apples in a super bougie way. I highly recommend that you do not try to eat all your apples like this because it would take a lot of time, but you know, to each their own.